I never imagined a single sentence could feel like someone had yanked the floor out from under me. But that's exactly what happened the night my father looked across the dinner table calm as if he were reading the evening news and said, "We gave your wedding fund to your sister. She deserves something grand." For a few seconds I didn't react. My fork hovered mid-air, my breath caught in my throat, and my thoughts froze in a sharp, cold haze. Across from me, my fiancé Noah went still too. I didn't have to look at him to know the muscles in his jaw had tightened. Before I tell you what happened after that bombshell, let me ask you something. If you were in my place, what would you have done? My name is Elena Carter. I'm 29 years old, and if I had to summarize my childhood in one phrase, it would be this. I grew up learning how to not be a burden. It wasn't intentional cruelty. My parents, Richard and Marlene, weren't monsters. They were just selective. Selective about where their affection went. Selective about who received attention, praise, second chances, and soft tones. And that chosen one was always my younger sister, Lena. Even as kids, Lena was the sun around which the Carter family rotated. Mom said she needed extra support. Dad called her gifted. All I ever heard was, "Elena will manage on her own." So I did. I became the quiet, reliable daughter who didn't complain about hand-me-downs, who didn't ask for rides, who packed her own lunches and filled out her own school forms. When college applications rolled around, it was me alone, at the dining table at midnight researching scholarships because I already knew no one would help. I got a full scholarship. Lena got a used BMW for getting into a local community program she dropped out of 6 months later. That pretty much sums up our dynamic, but everything changed the day I met Noah Hale. I met him at a small financial class held in a downtown community center. I had gone because I wanted to learn how to make my tiny savings grow. Noah was quiet, dressed plainly, and scribbled neat little notes in a notebook that looked old but expensive. He blended in so well that I assumed he was just another young professional trying to get his footing. We talked after class. Well, he talked first. He asked if I wanted coffee. His smile was warm, but his eyes were sharper than they first appeared. I said yes, mostly because something about him felt safe and effortless. For months, I knew him as a humble, soft-spoken guy who worked in finance. I thought maybe he was an accountant or a junior analyst somewhere. He lived in a modest apartment, drove a simple car, and never bragged about anything. He never even hinted at the truth. Almost a year later, I learned it accidentally. I was reorganizing some documents on his desk when I stumbled upon a thick magazine. His face was on the cover. Noah Hale, founder of Halitech, a financial startup acquired 2 years earlier for an 8-figure amount. I remember whispering, "This can't be real," but it was. When I confronted him, he sighed softly and said, "I didn't want you to fall in love with the money. I needed to know you saw me, and I had." I still did. When he proposed the following spring, I called my parents, hoping for excitement. Instead, Mom asked, "How big is the ring?" And Dad asked, "What does he do exactly?" I kept things vague. I didn't want Noah judged by his bank account. We planned a simple wedding, an outdoor ceremony, 60 guests, nothing theatrical. My parents had always told us they'd set aside equal wedding funds for both daughters. I had never touched mine, never even asked. I assumed it was still there. Then came that Sunday dinner. Lena was radiant as usual, bragging about her destination wedding in Punta Cana. She'd gotten engaged 3 months earlier to Trevor, a cheerful insurance agent with questionable investment ideas and a loud laugh that rattled the windows. She talked about flower arches, chandeliers, champagne fountains. Then Dad made his announcement, "We gave your wedding fund to your sister." My mind struggled to process the words. "You gave her mine?" I asked slowly. Dad shrugged, as if it were a reasonable household adjustment. "You're doing fine, Elena. You've always been fine. But your sister, she deserves a proper celebration." There it was again. Fine. Their favorite excuse to overlook me. Noah didn't move at first. Then, silently, he pushed his chair back and stood. He took out his phone, his expression unreadable. "Should I tell them the truth now?" he asked quietly. The room changed temperature. Mom blinked. Dad frowned. Lena's smile faltered. "What truth?" my father asked, trying to sound casual. Noah tapped his screen and turned it toward my parents. "I'm the founder of Halitech. Maybe you've heard of it." My father's face drained of color. Mom reached for the edge of the table as though steadying herself, and Noah continued, voice low but unshaken, "I was planning to pay for the entire wedding myself, every detail, because I wanted Elena's family to feel included." He let the words settle like stones. "But now," he said, "I'm hearing you took money meant for Elena. Money you promised her." Silence spread across the table like spilled ink. Lena stood abruptly. I didn't know it was her money. Mom said it was extra." "Sit down," Dad snapped weakly, but his authority was gone. Noah's voice remained calm when he said, "You will return the money. All of it. I don't care how." Mom whispered, "Noah, please, this is a family matter." "Elena is my family," he replied, "and I protect my family." In that moment, I felt something collapse and something awaken inside me. A lifetime of swallowing disappointment, of shrinking myself, of being fine, it all came undone. I stood up too. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't. "I spent my whole life trying to earn your attention, and I finally understand there was nothing wrong with me. You just never tried to see me." Neither of my parents spoke. For once, Lena stayed quiet. Noah reached for my hand. "We're done here," he said, and we walked out. When Noah and I stepped out of my parents' house that night, the air outside felt strangely lighter, like someone had finally cracked open a window in a suffocating room I'd been trapped in for years. My heart was pounding, but not from fear. Something else pulls through me, something unfamiliar, relief, freedom, clarity. Behind us, I heard voices rise, then fall, then collide. Lena crying, Mom whispering harshly, Dad's frustrated grumble. That soundtrack had defined my entire childhood, but I didn't turn back. I didn't need to anymore. Noah squeezed my hand as we reached the car. "You okay?" he asked softly. For the first time in a long time, I didn't have to force my answer. "I think I'm better than okay," he smiled, but there was still frustration lingering in his eyes, frustration on my behalf, something no one had ever shown so openly. That night, we made tea and sat on the couch in silence, a comfortable silence, the kind where you know the person next to you sees you exactly as you are, and that alone was enough to steady me. 3 weeks passed, 3 long weeks where I didn't receive a single call, not from Mom, not from Dad, not from Lena. But early one morning, I woke to a notification on my phone. "Incoming wire deposit from R. Carter. Every dollar they took was back in my account." No message attached. No apology. The silence itself was their confession. I didn't respond. Noah didn't question it. Some wounds don't need a paragraph to explain them. The absence of one speaks louder. We went back to planning our wedding our way. We abandoned the idea of my parents participating and poured our energy into what we truly wanted. Something simple, warm, and real. 6 months later, on a clear afternoon in early autumn, we got married in a small vineyard in Northern California. Vines twisted around wooden archways, the leaves glowing gold in the late sun. There were only 30 people present, all of them people who loved us without conditions or comparisons. Noah's parents cried when he read his vows. My best friend from college held my bouquet. One of Noah's colleagues played soft guitar music while we exchanged rings. My parents didn't attend. Lena didn't come. The empty chairs, I didn't notice them, not even once, because the day wasn't about who was missing. It was about who stayed. 3 months after our wedding, an unexpected message popped up on my phone. It was Lena. "Can we talk, please?" "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time. But here's the thing. Apologies offered only when someone's world collapses rarely hold truth. I didn't reply. I later heard through an aunt that Lena's wedding in Punta Cana had gone beautifully on the outside but was chaos behind the scenes. Trevor had gotten drunk at the reception and delivered a speech so embarrassing it made half the guests leave early. My parents had apparently spent months repaying loans they had taken to cover the wedding costs they originally expected to use from my fund. "Your sister's overwhelmed," the aunt said sympathetically. I only nodded. It wasn't my burden to carry anymore, because my life was building into something different, something quiet but steady, something deeply my own. A year later, Noah and I bought a house. Nothing ostentatious, just a 2-story home with a bright kitchen and a backyard big enough for fruit trees and maybe, someday, a swing set. The kind of house where you can imagine birthdays and bedtime stories and the soft chaos of family life. As we unpacked boxes one evening, Noah paused and watched me with that gentle expression he always saved just for me. "You know," he said, "I'm proud of you." "For what?" I laughed, setting a stack of plates aside. "For choosing yourself," he said. "Most people never do." His words hit me unexpectedly hard, and I felt tears slip down my cheeks before I could stop them. Because he was right. I had grown up believing my feelings were an inconvenience, my needs were a burden, and my voice was optional. But somewhere along the way, maybe that night at the dinner table, maybe the moment I walked out, or maybe the first time Noah took my hand, I realized something important. Being quiet is not the same as being unnoticed, being strong is not the same as being silent, and being fine is not the same as being valued. I finally understood that I deserved more than the quiet corners I was pushed into. A few months after moving into the new house, I did something I never expected. I donated the money my parents had returned every cent to a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. For kids like the girl I had once been, the girl who filled out her own forms at midnight, who carried the world alone because no one else would. As I submitted the donation, a strange sense of peace settled over me. It wasn't revenge, and it wasn't forgiveness either. It was closure. Giving that money away meant I was done waiting for my parents to repay me with something they never possessed. Accountability, fairness, affection that didn't come with strings. I built my own foundation, and I intended to help others do the same. Last month, I heard that Lena and Trevor were taking a break, a pause, a reset. Another word for things are falling apart. Mom called to tell me, but I let it go to voicemail. Her voice sounded small, almost unfamiliar. For the first time, she didn't mention money or expectations or comparisons, just, "Your sister is having a hard time." She could use her family, but I've learned something vital. Just because someone is your family doesn't mean you owe them your peace. Some doors stay closed because opening them again would only let the storm back in. If you've ever been the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who gets overlooked because you manage just fine, let me tell you something from someone who lived in that shadow. Your strength is not invisibility, it is resilience. Those long years where no one saw you, they built a foundation under your feet stronger than anyone realizes, and one day, maybe sooner than you think, you'll rise from that foundation, and the people who ignored your worth will finally understand what they lost. I used to think my story was a small one. Now I know small stories just belong to small voices. Mine was always powerful. I just needed to start telling it. If you love this story, don't forget to subscribe today. Remember for more powerful and emotional stories.